All right, our next topic is RWA Tokenization, the 450 trillion opportunity. Our speaker will be Phillip Pon, the CEO of Emergo, a co-founding entity of the Cardano blockchain. Overseeing Emergo's global operation, leading the company's efforts to bridge the gap between traditional finance and blockchain through investments, partnerships, and infrastructure development. Everybody, please welcome Phillip Pon.
Good afternoon. I know I'm on a clock. So first off, huge thanks to Sarah and Socius for putting together a phenomenal event. Grateful to be back on stage. Super excited to be here. So what I'm going to talk about today, I'm going to talk about the narrative that is going to save crypto. All of crypto right now is $4.3 trillion. It's less than NVIDIA stock. What is going to save this industry is actually RWA. And RWA stands for, to me, real-world adoption, not just real-world asset tokenization. So let's dive into it. At the beginning of this cycle, we were promised everything. We were tokenizing wine, watches, real estate, everything you could think of. But it really wasn't gaining adoption. And it wasn't gaining adoption for a few reasons that we'll dive into. But before we do that, what are real-world assets as you tokenize them? There's the tangible and the intangible. There's the equities, IP, things of that nature, and there's real estate. There's physical commodities. But what makes it magical is not the wrapper of tokenization. It's actually the programmability and composability of these assets. It allows you to do much more with them than simply fractionalize. So what's the first alpha that I want to share today? As anyone in this room evaluates or looks at projects that promise real-world asset tokenization, you must ensure they check 3 boxes. They must have all 3 C's. They have to be compliant. We live in a world where regulation is inevitable, regulation is happening, but regulation is happening now through legislation rather than enforcement. So it's actually a very permissive environment. So there's no excuse to not have a compliant platform. The second C is custody. No one will custodize or trust you with $1 billion of fixed assets or real assets unless you have proper custody, both physical where needed and the digital custody angle, right? And so that's been solved. You know, you have custody providers like BitGo, Coinbase custody, and if you prefer, let's say more institutional, let's say a Zodia custody, which is part of StanChart. So custody exists now. So again, no excuse not to have proper custody. The third part is where the real magic does happen. It's about composability. Composability effectively makes assets more useful. So if you had a kg of gold, what can you do with that right now? It's actually a liability. It has to sit in a vault or sit in a safety box. You can't do much with it. But if it were fractionalized and you could borrow against it, now it's composable. Now it's actually a useful performing asset. So you need all 3 C's. So what will be the canary in the mine then? What is happening now? How do I stand on this stage and tell you that this narrative is going to change all of crypto? Stable coins is actually proof of market fit. There's almost 300 billion of stable coins already. It's working. We use it every day. And at 300 billion, we are not even close to where it's going to go. This is what you should be looking for. You should be watching how much USDT mints, how much USDC mint, how much USD1 mints, how much do all of the other stable coins that we see out there, including our own USDA, I think Shantanu's in the crowd, so NZENs, how much are they minting? Because in order for this to actually work, you need trillions of stable coins, right? So if you're going to tokenize part of Ginza, that's hundreds of billions of dollars. If there's not enough stable coins to affect the transaction, it really doesn't work. So the canary that you should be looking at is how fast are stable coins minting. What is Japan's solution? Well, I actually believe Circle's doing the right thing here, right? You need a Japanese yen stablecoin. We still live in a world where there are multiple currencies. It shouldn't just be US dollar. So I actually foresee a world where it kind of mirrors what we see in TradFi. We're going to have USD DC, USDA. It'll be US dollar based, sure. You're going to have Japanese yen. You're going to have euro. You're going to have Korean won. So that is also where there's an opportunity. These token issuers are really the trend du jour today. Everyone is watching stables, and there's still a ton of opportunity. The race has not yet entirely been run and won here. So keep an eye out for these. Similarly, as I mentioned, you have Ripple, SBI. They're big believers in this space. We're going to see Japan be a leader. They're actually in many ways the birthplace of Bitcoin and a home for Cardano. And so I actually feel an enormous amount of innovation comes out of Japan. And so I expect to see more particularly in the stablecoin space. So once you have stablecoins, great. If you're an institution, you can buy buildings. If you're an institution, you can invest in fixed income. But what do all of us who have a little bit less money do? Well, the product market fit for stablecoins is actually again happening right now. If you notice, you can use stablecoins on a credit card, right? It's actually really simple to use. My mom can use a credit card, swipe, and she won't even know she's using the stables that I funded for her, right? And so the real world adoption of these is actually trending towards retail as well. So you've got the institutional side, but you also have the retail side. So if you look at cards like Cast, cards like Crypto.com, et cetera, they've been doing this for years. And it's kind of a Trojan horse, right? It's the real impact that we're having. People are spending millions and millions of dollars in 180 countries using Visa, funded by stablecoins. So what else is working? You know, you actually have massive institutional adoption right now in real-world assets. You have behemoths like BlackRock, Franklin Templeton, Fidelity. These institutions don't come in to be 8th or 9th place. They come in to win and dominate the market. And they are very, very active in investing hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars to position themselves properly for when this inevitable transition occurs. 450 trillion is what's at play, and that's just the assets. These things turn over trillions of dollars a day in just trading volume, right? It's massive. But there's also opportunity for Web3 native startups, Web3 native companies. Ondo is probably the poster child right now. They're a unicorn in this space. They're absolutely pioneering, you know, where real-world asset tokenization goes. They've tokenized stocks. It's trading on gate.com right now. You have firms like Tenka that are focused on private credit. These are emerging firms that you'll hear a lot from in the coming months and years who are going to be tackling real-world liquidity issues, right? Making these things available beyond the institutions to folks in this room. DigiFT is actually taking a different tact. They're building ostensibly a marketplace where they're creating a Disneyland of sorts. Once you KYC, once you onboard into their ecosystem, you can trade anything within their markets. So you're seeing a lot of that happen right now. And it's happening around the world. So in the US, you see Robinhood. They're actually expanded into Europe, 21X, DigiFT in Asia. These are the next generation of NASDAQs, right? They are where you're going to see an enormous amount of innovation. So I encourage you to look these up and potentially experiment. So what we have to ask ourselves right now is not whether RWA is going to happen. It's happening already. It's happening while you're sleeping. It's happening right now. It's where do you want to participate? Do you want to participate in the governance layer, the liquidity layer, the protocol layer? There's so much opportunity, right, for everyone who are builders. And everyone who are investors, if you look at it from the 3 Cs, if they have all 3 components, you can have some degree of confidence that they're thinking about it in the right way. And if you zoom out, look at stablecoins. Stablecoins is your canary in the mine. As that continues to grow, you know this inevitability is actually picking up pace. So I'm running out of time. Feel free to follow me. I'd love to get to know everyone on X. We do a lot of talking about what and where we're headed at Emergo. We're big believers in RWA. We're big believers that financial services is the legitimate and sizable ecosystem that we want to play in and we want to partner with. So if you're building in the space, if you have interest in the space, by all means, connect with me. I'm pretty active on X. Thanks very much. Appreciate everyone's time.
Thank you so much.